Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Wheeler, thank you so much for taking your time, and pretty heartened by some of the comments that you're making in terms of addressing localism, the importance of connectivity, and the economies that we're in. And I'd like to speak a little bit on what may, at first blush, perhaps seem to be just a provincial issue, but we have examples of this literally across the country. I come from the 3rd District of Colorado.
Yes, sir.
We have Montezuma and La Plata counties in that district that are labeled as orphan counties when it comes to being able to get in-state transmissions of television. And as a result of current policies and the DMA market that we're relegated to, which is currently Albuquerque, we simply do not receive Colorado news, Colorado weather forecasts, Colorado emergency broadcasts, and probably equally important to many people in my district, our folks are forced to watch the Dallas Cowboys lose rather than the Denver Broncos win. And so this is an important issue in all sincerity. We have one example that came out of our district when we were having the fire in Colorado Springs. Had folks in the 2 counties, had relatives. They could not get updates in terms of what was going on, possibly endangered family members. So given in your testimony that you stated that promoting this localism in a broad spectrum is the Commission's mission, I'd like to hear what the FCC is thinking about the retransmission policy for places like Southwest Colorado. We have 3 DMAs in state that they could be part of rather than being stuck with an out-of-state market.
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. Tipton, and I understand the challenge, and it's beyond silly. The difficulty that we face is the authority that we have to deal with it under various statutes. And I know that there is talk right now in the other body about an amendment that might open the door and help on the retransmission side. There are also some copyright questions involved. It is a thorny kind of issue that I think boils down to if I could find a solution, I would. And every time we go looking for it, we come across some limitations as to what our statutory authority may be. But I understand the issue, and I'd like to be helpful in it to the extent that it's possible.
You know, I appreciate that. Your predecessor had indicated willing to work with us to be able to resolve these issues. We were not able to get in touch with his office, even though we tried. And so you're making a commitment to us that you are willing to work with us to be able to address these very credible concerns in our district.
Mr. Tipton, the day you call, I will be back to you post-haste.
Great. And we'll have you help reach out so our Senate side will work with us as well on this. I also want to be able to move on the broadband issue. Back in May, we had over 130 representatives and senators that wrote you in support of broadband mechanism to promote network deployment in areas served by small independent rural carriers. And I heard your comments, but I'd like you to be able to expand and receive comments on the proposed standalone broadband funding mechanism and whether the FCC has made any progress towards moving toward that goal.
So we have just closed the comment period on the proceeding, I think, last week. And we'll be moving through that process. I know that standalone broadband is an important issue. I know that it also is an issue that has a couple of sides because some people say, well, wait a minute, if you're no longer in a support voice, what's the impact of that going to be on older people and minorities who can't otherwise afford broadband? And we have to work our way through those. But I'm hopeful that, as I say, this proceeding has just recently closed, and we want to move on it with dispatch.
Right. Do you see some policy changes that need to happen to promote broadband deployment into these rural areas that are underserved and developing an environment literally to attract sorely needed competition into these rural areas?
Well, the key word that you just said is competition, because the interesting thing is that our telecom policy, our policy to support expansion into rural areas is one that was based on a hello grandma kind of a concept of voice calls. And in that situation, we were talking about twisted pair copper as the only way to get it done. In a broadband environment, there are hopefully an increasing number of ways to get it done. You can get it on DSL over copper, you can get it on fiber, you can get it from satellite, you can get it in microwave. There are multiple ways of being able to do that. And so one of the things that we have to be working our way through is saying, okay, how do we make sure that we, A, maintain service and the investment that the American people have made in the service, while at the same point in time making sure that we're not excluding new, potentially improved service providers. And so our solution to that has been that we ought to run some taste tests, and we ought to run some trials. And so we've got $100 million that we have said we will use to fund atypical rural broadband deployment trials, with the emphasis on trials, to find out whether there, in fact, beyond the hypothetical, can be put in place alternatives to the system that has always existed. And we will be taking the final bids on these I'm sorry, not bids, the final offers to provide service middle of next month. And I hope that we will have made our decision by the end of the year, and that there will be trials operational next year.
Great. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your indulgence. Mr. Chairman Wheeler, thank you for being here. I yield back.
Thank you, Member Velasquez.